excited.
Okay, it looks like the recording has started. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Beth so we can get to watercoloring. We're so excited on behalf of Tombow to have and Michaels to have our brand ambassador, Beth Watson, teaching you guys how to watercolor florals with dual brush pens. She's going to be using our watercolor set. So if any of you guys have any questions during the class, feel free to drop them in the chat bar and I will do my best to answer all of them. Without further ado, Beth, I'm going to hand it off to you to get us started.
Okay. Hey, everybody. My name is Beth Watson, and I have been working with Tombow forever. I was on the design team for 3 or 4 years, and now I am a brand ambassador. And I think this is my 4th or 5th class that I've taught with Michaels for Tombow. And I love, love, love this format. It's so much fun. So just to give you a little bit of information about me, I'm in Fort Myers, Florida. And let's see, weird things. I love dark chocolate. And I take care of my mom and dad. And yeah, that's about it. I can't think of anything else that's interesting. We've got a lot of stuff to do. I do have a blog post that's already live at creativelybeth.com. that will have the downloads for
Hey, Beth, it looks like you're muted. We can't hear you. Not sure from where you're muted from. If everyone could just give us a few seconds, we're gonna fix this really quickly. Technical difficulties.
sorry.
No problem. It's
Can you hear me now?
yes, yes.
Okay. I hit the wrong button on my phone as I was putting it back into the overhead. Okay. Everybody can hear me and we're looking at the overhead now?
Yes, you're good to go.
Okay, perfect. Pencil line. So that is one of the mono drawing pencils. And then of course we have the water brush, which is one of my favorites. So this entire shaft barrel is full of water. And then we've got the nice polyester bristles that retain their shape, but also do a very nice job in blending. So that's what we're going to be using to watercolor. We've got our mono twin, which is one of my favorites because it is a permanent ink marker. It's got a bullet tip on one end, which is a little bit fatter. And then it's also got an extra fine tip on the other end, which is a little bit thinner. So that's what I do most of my drawing and doodling with because it is permanent and it will not bleed when it's exposed to the water. And then within the watercolor set, we've got 5 colors. And when you initially look at the color mix, it looks to be a fairly unique set of colors, but it really is a nice blend and they really do mix very well together. So we've got 885 instructions in my blog post that will explain to you how you can either print out. If you have a laser printer, you can go ahead, that's a dry toner printer. You can print the printables directly onto the watercolor paper. If you have an inkjet printer, you don't want to watercolor over an inkjet print because the outline will bleed. So you can always put your printable down and trace it with the mono twin onto the watercolor paper. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to watercolor tonight is this overall floral design that I drew with the mono twin. And this printable is on in the blog post on my website, creativelybeth.com. And the first thing I would like to show you tonight is a color chart. So a lot of times a color chart seems like a lot of work, but it really gives you a watercolor effect that you can get. So we can go ahead and get started. Oh, sorry. One thing I forgot to tell you that's in the watercolor set is a blending palette, which is nice because it's got all the Tombow colors on the back. And it's a nice plastic palette that we can put our color down on and then pick it up with the water brush. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. This flower right here is kind of a dogwood style flower. And I'm going to put some color down on the blending palette. And I've got the 993. The other couple of things that I always keep with me when I'm watercoloring are paper towels, because that's how we're going to clean our brush. We're going to push some water out of the brush and clean the brush. And then I also always have baby wipes so that we can clean the palette when we need to. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and take the water brush. I'm going to, with the pressure, I'll go ahead and get a little bit more color going on here. And the nice part about the palette is you can add color, you can add some additional water. There we go. That's a little bit more vibrant. Pick up some more color. Now this is called indirect blending because we have added the color to the blending palette first, and we're picking it up with the water brush. This also works very well when in a couple minutes when we'll create additional colors. I'm going to add a little bit more color, pick it up, and then just go ahead and add that color right onto the flower. The nice part about the dual brush pen color is you can definitely go back once this dries. If I don't feel that this is dark enough, I can go back and add some additional shading and some additional color to the image itself by adding layers. Okay, so we've just gone ahead and added our yellow. And you can watch, I'm going to clean the brush. I'm just going to push water out the bristles until it runs clean on my paper towel. And then you can tell that the brush is clean and we can move on to our next color. I'm just going to clean this extra color off of the palette with a baby wipe. And then we can go ahead into this flower here, which is kind of like a peony, and it's going to end up being this particular purple color up here that I've done earlier. So the two colors that I'm going to mix together to make that purple are my 526 and my 757. Okay, and I'm going to add more of the 757, which is the nice burgundy color. And I'm going to add a little bit less of the blue to get that nice warm purple. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and blend directly on the palette and then add the color onto the watercolor paper. So I just dropped a few droplets of water out of the water brush and I'm mixing it on the palette. And we can just go right in, push that water out as you're adding the color to the image, and just fill in the image, just like so. And like I said, I just kind of filling it in quickly. I'm not that worried about where the color is, or add a little bit more blue to my palette. And add a little bit more of that nice kind of plum purple in some of the other areas. Here we go. Pick up some of that color, add it to the flower, give it a little bit more shading in certain areas. And the Strathmore watercolor paper is nice. You see that I don't have this taped down. So that's one of the reasons why I like the Strathmore, the 140-pound watercolor paper, is because most of the time I do not, unless I'm completely saturating the page, I really do not tape it down at all. Okay. So I'm just going to add a little bit of color, little light, little dark. And again, if you want some areas to be considerably darker than others, you can wait for this to dry. You can come back and you can layer additional color. I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush by squeezing the water through the bristles onto the paper towel. Make sure that you guys can all see that. The darker colors do take a little bit longer to come out of the brush.
Hey, Beth.
Yeah.
One thing we've been getting a request for is if you have a time, show people how to doodle a couple of those flowers, just because,
Okay.
they want to see how you created them.
Oh, okay, sure. I can do that.
And using the mono twin, it's
Yeah.
been suggested. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. We see that good? Okay. Mono twin. Let's see. Okay, I'll do the little yellow dogwood flower. So you can see there's a variation of line width here. I did the outline of the petals with the bullet tip, and then I went back in and did the details with the fine tip. And I'll try to draw it as large as I can so that you guys can all see it nicely. Okay, we'll start out with the center. I did one large circle, and I'm just going around that circle with smaller circles. And then we'll go out with the petals. So the petal is really just kind of like a heart, where the point of the heart doesn't come in all the way. And that's kind of how I do the flowers. I'm kind of on the spot here. There we go. And then we'll just come back in here, do some additional layers of the petals. Okay, everybody see that? It's not the prettiest, but and then we can go back in. So then I usually take the extra fine tip, and I'll start kind of over where it looks like the petals might, kind of bend and turn over. And I'll just add some detail around the edge of the petals, and just in an organic fashion. Kind of like that. And just random. Like that. And then just to give the petal some added interest, just going to take from the center and draw some lines outward. Kind of like that. The little blue flowers are one of my favorites. These little guys right here. They're just kind of fun. Some of these flowers are just out of my head too. They're not really actual flowers. They're kind of doodles. So the little blue one is a circle within a circle for the center. And then I've just kind of created some long jagged petals come out, do some jagged lines. I usually try to do an odd number as I'm going around. Like that. So that's really all those little blue flowers are some rectangular petals with some jagged edges. Go ahead, I can show you how to do a couple of the leaves. So the big leaves here, like this one. I just kind of draw out, do some little jagged lines, go to a tip, and then as I'm bringing it back, I want to do my little jagged edge at different intervals. Like that. And then I'm just going to, yes, if you do not have a palette, you can use a Ziploc. I just saw that comment real quick. And then I'm just gonna draw some veins. I like to do fairly graphic florals and illustrations. I'm not usually going directly correctly from nature. You can just add some veins to the leaf. And then the other one with the little teardrop, and that's basically all it is. I just draw a long line. I put a teardrop on the end, and then I just go down the length, teardrop to teardrop, teardrop to teardrop. Just do little bubbles. And then I do try to get larger as I go down, as the leaf would get larger closer to the stem. Kind of like that. Okay, is that helpful? Good, okay. Do you want to see more? Are we good?
I think that's pretty good. I think people
Okay.
just wanted to see like how to illustrate some of those flowers that you were
Right.
watercoloring.
And actually, this one that's on the edge is really super easy. I'll show that one real quick because that one's super, super easy. And I have no idea. It's just out of my head. It's not an actual flower. But I just draw kind of a wavy line like that with the bullet tip. And then I'm going to go back in and I'm just going to draw layer after layer after layer of thinner lines that are just kind of random. They are not, you know, some might be a little bit squigglier than others. I'm just kind of going around and drawing like ruffles. And then a lot of times I like to just do a cluster of circles, you know, for the stamen, for the seeds in the center of a flower, kind of like that. And then you just build all of the little like petals around. Kind of like that. So that is this flower here. Okay. All right. Quick flowers. Alrighty, and that's with the mono twin. So they will not bleed once you draw with the mono twin. And the other nice thing about the mono twin also is that the ink seeps into the paper and dries instantly. So you don't have to wait for anything to dry. Okay, so we'll get back to doing some watercolor. This 885 color that's in this watercolor kit is very versatile. This is what I've done this larger rounded petal flower with. And I'm weird, but I love that noise. It makes me happy when it squeaks. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick up some of the color. And again, this is the indirect method, indirect blending method. I'm just going to go ahead and add the color as I push the water out onto the flower. Pick up some more of that color. This is a really pretty orangey pink color. And again, I'm not going to worry that I've gone outside the lines. I kind of like that look. And I'm just going to fill it in quickly, a little bit rough and random. It's one of the things I like about the watercolor is that it's one of those mediums that you do not have to be precise with. It can be very loose and very painterly. Okay, so there's our other flower. I guess that kind of looks a little bit like a dogwood too, doesn't it? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush. All right. Okay, and you can see that over time my bristles have gotten stained. You don't have to worry as long as the water's coming out of the brush tip clear. You're perfectly good to move on to your next color. Okay, clean that with the baby wipe. And let's see, we can do some of the leaves. I can go ahead and do a couple of these leaves. I really like the way the 249, the green, mixes with the 526 blue. It gives it kind of like a steely kind of color. Makes it a little bit grayish. Go ahead and add some water. There we go. And again, the more water you add, the lighter your colors are going to be. The less water that you add, the deeper, richer tones that you're going to get from your dual brush pens. So it's really up to you, as much water or as little water as you want to add. But that gives a nice kind of steely look. It's a muted green. Okay. And then I'm going to also go ahead and add a little bit of yellow to the palette. And continue on with the yellow and the green, which gets a much warmer tone that I'm going to use here on this jagged leaf. Again, just pick up the color with the brush, add it, and push the water out of the brush as you're adding it to the paper. Okay. Now there's also a method of watercoloring with the dual brush pens. It's called the direct method. And that's the method where we're going to put the color directly down on the watercolor paper. And then we're going to blend with the water brush directly on the paper. Just go ahead and get the color off of here. Multiples, and I'm going to go ahead and do that with this nice burgundy flower that's right over here. I'm going to put the color down directly onto the flower. The only thing is, when you're working with the watercolor paper, you do have to work fairly quickly. The longer you let this set in the paper in these stripes like this, the more quickly it can become the pattern and you won't be able to manipulate the ink. Okay, there we go. But you can see I just put a couple of lines of color down on the flower directly, and I can blend those pieces or those stripes of color directly into the flower. And just work it a little bit. Again, a little bit darker in some areas than others. But that is called the direct blending method, where we put the ink directly on the paper. No, it doesn't fray the brush. I see that question. The brush bristles are not like a traditional paintbrush. They are nylon. So you can see, let's see. You guys can see still how nice and pointed the tip of my water brush is. And sometimes I use this brush a lot, and it's the medium size one. I use it quite a bit. And yeah, it retains its point very nicely because the bristles are made of like a nylon. So sometimes I look up just when your questions are up there on the little screen there. Okay. So we can go ahead and move on. We can do our blue flowers here. I'm going to do the direct blending method with those. I'm just going to put a little stripe of blue in each one of the petals. I think I'm going to just do 3. Okay. And the other nice thing about working like this with the dual brush pens is that you can definitely use the color full strength and add the color directly to, your image, which we're going to do in a little bit. That's why I've watercolored some of these flowers in advance. So yeah, just go ahead and put the color down directly on the watercolor paper. I just like to make sure that I use more the edge of the dual brush pen, so that I'm holding it, kind of at a 45-degree angle, and I'm adding the color. You don't want to add the color with the very point of the dual brush pen, because after a while that will rag the pen tip a little bit. But if you use the side, you can definitely get that nice bit of color on there and retain the nice pointed tip of your dual brush pens. Okay, so there's our little blue flowers. I'm gonna go ahead and clean my brush a little bit there. This ruffly flower that I drew was fun. I actually used a bit of the 885, and I added just a bit of the 757. And I went ahead and, let's see. Oh yeah, I still have water in there. I can show you guys how to fill the water brush too. And it just, there's such a nice array of colors that's available with this particular palette. The very first time I looked at the watercolor set, I was like, okay, well, that's an odd mix of colors. But then once I sat down and actually did a color chart and was blending with them, I'm like, oh, that's really pretty. They really do combine to make a very pretty set of colors. Okay, so there's that one. It's a nice kind of lipstick pink. And then I just have one more. See that? 757 takes a while to come out of the brush. Okay. There we go. I need to slow down. I'm rushing. I want to fit all of the good information in. Okay, we'll go ahead and clean the palette. And we're going to go ahead and do these last leaves right here. I'm going to go ahead and put the 249 Again, we're going to do the direct method. So I'm just going to add color directly to the leaves using the side of the brush pen. And then I'm just going to add just a little bit of water to give it a little bit of variation. I want these leaves to be really super nice and dark. So it gives a nice variety of shades of green with my different florals. Okay. So there we are, all watercolored. And then the other thing that I added to my original was I went back in with the bullet tip of the dual brush pen and I added some color directly onto the images. So we can go ahead and do that right now with some of the images that I watercolored earlier this afternoon. Let's put our lid back on there. So for instance, our nice flowers here. So now I'm going to use the bullet tip of the dual brush pen. And I'm going to go ahead and color in the center of the flower so that it's got a nice, it's the same tone, it's just a darker tone. And I'm going to go around and outline the petals with the bullet tip to kind of give it an interesting mod style. You guys see that? Or I've added the color directly with the bullet tip of the dual brush pen onto the flower. Outlining each one of the petals just to give it some added interest. And then the little blue flowers, I gave them a yellow center. And again, just using the bullet tip of the dual brush pen. This is the 993. And because I wanted that yellow to be nice and bright and vibrant. And then I just did put the blue again right in the very center. I did the same thing with the yellow dogwood style flowers. We'll go ahead and use the bullet tip and we'll color in that center. And then I just kind of outlined the folds in the petals to give it a little bit extra added depth and dimension. Which is something that you wouldn't be able to do, you know, with actual watercolor. You can just go through and add some different color to some of the flowers. Same with the leaves. You take the bullet tip of the 249 and just kind of outline some of the veins in the leaves to give the piece a little bit of extra added dimension. Okay. And then I did the same thing with the nice large flower. I just went in to the little ruffled edge and gave that ruffled edge a little bit more depth and dimension with the 757 bullet tip of the dual brush pen. Okay. That's pretty much the floral. Now this floral you could use, you know, you could use it for a scrapbook layout. You could cut it apart. You could definitely, you know, use it as a gift card. You could use it in a tag, anything like that. It's really pretty and nice and bright for spring. Another project that's really quick and easy that I got on the blog tonight as well is this fun little bag. It's just a little tiny gift bag that was white. I watercolored it. Oh, here's my sample. So earlier today, so that I could have time for it to dry, I went ahead and used the 526 and watered it down quite a bit and added color directly onto the little gift bag from the dollar store that used to be white. So, and then I just went ahead and let that dry. And then I can show you real quick how we watercolored the butterfly. I also have the butterfly printable on the blog, so you can print that out as well. And again, I just use the exact same techniques. Some of the nice things to do would be to blend. So if you take the 757 and bring it around from the base of the edge of the butterfly, and then add the 885 in the other section, you can go ahead and blend the two colors nicely with the water brush to get a third color variation. There we go. Just go ahead and blend that back and forth together. And fill all your areas in. See, so you can get a nice gradiated shade. And then you can just go ahead. Well, I'm just gonna, should I skip ahead a little bit? We've got 15 minutes. Yeah, so I went ahead and watercolored a butterfly earlier. And I went ahead and cut him out. His little antenna and everything. So again, all the colors on this butterfly were from the watercolor set. This nice bright orange here is the 885 mixed with the 993, that kind of tomatoey red and the yellow. And I made a really nice, pretty purple using the 757 and the 526. So you can really see that butterfly. And then just to use all the colors in this particular set, I took the 4H mono drawing pencil and I just penciled in the word hope. I'm definitely not one of those lettering people that can just pick up a brush pen and just go whoop, 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 and it looks gorgeous. I definitely always need a pencil outline. So I'm just going to go ahead and we can go ahead and letter this. Thick on your downstrokes, thin on your upstrokes is all about pressure and the way that you hold the pen. You want to hold it at a 45-degree angle. And you're going to use that tip and go very lightly when you're working your way up. And then very heavy when you're working your way down. So you get a nice thin and thick. Okay, so my secret trick for lettering, because like I said, my lettering is not professional or, you know, I don't think anyway. So I take the bullet tip of the dual brush pen and I go back and I clean up anything that I think doesn't look proper, or maybe I've got a connector that didn't connect all the way, or I've got a transition that kind of went a little flat. So I go back in and kind of fix my letters. And that is my super secret trick to hand lettering. That P kind of came out flat, so I'm going to give him a little bit more of a rounded edge. And you can see that my E has a really flat, it's got a really flat top on it. So I'm just going to take the bullet tip, I'm going to go around, I'm going to fix that bad boy and make him nice and round and smooth. Okay, just like that. So then we've got hope. lettered on the bag. And then Tombow also has foam tape. So that's a lot of fun. I'm just going to cut a chunk of the foam tape. I'm going to put that on the back of our butterfly. Cut it too big, so I'm going to cut it a little smaller. So I've got the foam tape there on the back. The peelies are always the worst for me. There we go. And then I just kind of bent the butterfly wings a little bit to give him a little bit of dimension. I'm just going to add him right there to the bag. So he's kind of flying right off the bag. Added a little bit of yellow tissue paper. And yeah, you take just a plain old white gift bag from the dollar store and turn it into something really super pretty. That didn't take a lot of time. So the watercolor set is very versatile. I got some other samples here, things that I've done with the dual brush pens and the watercolor set. One of which is, I don't know if y'all know this, or maybe some of our older viewers today will remember this the same way I do. It's called Hug Snug. It's seam binding. It's a rayon, it's a white rayon seam binding that you can buy at Joann. And basically the way that I've colored this is I have taken and put the dual brush pen color down on the blending palette. I've added water to it, and then I've soaked the ribbon into the color to get colored, so if I wanted to add a bow to this particular bag, I've got the perfect color match of ribbon because the seam binding is white. I love to make my own wrapping paper. So again, I've taken the colors of the watercolor set and just a roll of white butcher paper that I got at the dollar store. And I laid down some color. I added water with the water brush, and then I took the extra fine tip of the mono twin marker, and then I just added happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. So you've got your cute little, and then I created ribbon that matched my package with the 526. Okay. Some of the other things that I've done with this particular set, something super easy that you can do is take your one color. I did several different gradations of the watercolor using a little bit of water and a lot of water. And then I just took a heart punch and I punched it out and I added it into a picture frame, just as a piece of home decor. Super quick, super simple. You could use this with any one of the colors and any shape punch that you would have, or you could hand cut some things out. I love to stamp and color with the dual brush pens. So this is a stamped image of a flower. I used a archival ink so that it would not bleed. And then I just went ahead and took the dual brush pens and added the color and then watercolored it in with the water brush. And I did the same thing with the background. I made myself a background with the 526. I cut the image out and then I added it directly to the card. So they really are very versatile. You can color images in completely, or you can, watercolor them to give them a little bit of added depth and interest. Let's see. These are a couple of fun backgrounds that I did by using a stencil. So I put a stencil down on top of my watercolor paper, and then I just added some lines of dual brush pen ink and then watercolored straight through the stencil to get that kind of fun pattern image. And again, this is all with the same color palette. This is the 993, the 526, and the 249, the yellow, the blue, and the green. And I love how these, you know, 3 colors mixed and matched together. And again, you could use this as a card, a tag, bookmarks. You could do all kinds of different things with that. I also have just some fun. I haven't put any ink over top of these yet, but you know, these could be, you know, a floral background. These reminded me of oranges and lemons. I'm going to doodle over top of them. And then again with this one, but just a really good combination of colors, you know, that gives you a very nice varied palette. And then this is probably one of my favorites. This one took me a while. So the way I start anything out is I'll do like a little thumbnail sketch, and then I'll draw everything out with pencil. And then I've got a Cricut Bright Pad or a light box, and I use that to actually then add the color directly through the watercolor paper using the light box, so that I don't have to worry about pencil lines. But this one was think outside the box, and this is all watercolored. And then I've added patterns. I don't know if you guys can see that. These nighttime classes are. So I've added different patterns, diamonds and circles and squiggles to each one of the different letters, just to give it some more added interest. And I use the mono twin on top of the color. I put the color down first, and then I drew the patterns with the mono twin on top of the watercolor. So those are just some of the samples, some of the fun things that you can do with this particular set. It's very versatile. As you guys can see, there's a lot of cool samples that I made, and it's really one of my favorite sets. I actually grab it all the time to use. Does anybody have any questions? Right? Yeah, it is. There's so many color options with this particular set. That's why it's so important. I always go back. People are like, oh, we're doing a blending chart when I teach like a, you know, like a big class at like Pinners or another conference. And it really is like a light bulb moment. It's like an aha moment when they realize the, you know, the different amount of colors that you can get just by blending 5 different colors of pens together. So, and then you've got all of these gradations down here too, depending upon how much water you add to just the single color. So yeah. Any questions? Anybody has? This one would be fun to do with butterflies. It is the Tombow Dual Brush Pen is the name of the pen. And the set is called the Watercolor Set. So there's the watercolor set. It is available at Michael's. And you guys can get it, you know, if you use your coupon, get a good price. But the fun thing about the dual brush pen is it is a water-based ink, and you've got the nice big brush tip that a lot of people like to use for lettering. And then you've got the rounded bullet tip. So it's kind of like having 2 pens in one. Really very versatile. And because it's a water-based ink, you can watercolor with it. So let's see. How do I use the chart? Well, I use the chart. So the chart was the starting point. Because like I said, when I first got this set, I was baffled by the color selection. But then when I started blending the color, so for instance, wherever the numbers intersect, so it's a grid. So 526, which is our blue, when it intersects with 757, you get that pretty purple color. And again, I've got photos of this and explanation on the website, on my website with the blog post. But you can just see, you know, the different color variations you get. You know, even though you've got a green and kind of like a burgundy color, most of the time red and green or yellow and purple or blue and orange will like basically make brown because of the way the color wheel is structured. But this set, because of the undertones in the colors, everything blends very nicely together. You really don't get any colors that are, you know, really giving you kind of that, you know, muddy brown situation. So yeah, you can fill the water pen under your sink. If I'm really crafting away and I don't feel like getting up and down and out of my seat, I get one of these condiment squeeze bottles from the dollar store, and it's got a really fine, you know, tip on the end of it. Here, let me do this real quick. Super quick. Let me get all this out of the way. I'll show you this real quick. So the water brush unscrews. So the plastic barrel unscrews from the colored center of the pen. And the plastic on the center of the pen is very hard plastic, whereas the plastic of the barrel is very pliable. You can see how that kind of squishes. So basically what I do is I will take my little condiment bottle and I will carefully, I've done this a bunch, so I'll just kind of, most of the time, just let it gravity take effect and let it drip. And then I just go ahead and fill that up. And I keep that little water bottle on my table while I'm creating. Because if I'm doing, you know, a bunch of work like this, I don't want to keep getting up to this, go to the sink and getting up to go to the sink. So this is just from the dollar store. It's just a regular condiment bottle. So that's how I fill my water brushes. And the water brushes are nice too. I travel with these like in a zippered pouch with my other supplies, and they really have never leaked. And I'm still, even though it's a little bit discolored, I'm still using, you know, the first set of water brushes that Tombow came out with. I want to say it's going on 3 years now. So they're really a very good investment. So any other questions? Yeah, Strathmore 140-pound watercolor paper is what I prefer because I just think that it's a heavier watercolor paper, so it won't wrinkle and crinkle when you add the water to it. So any other questions? Yeah, the 300 series. Yeah, I think that's what, this is either the 300 or the 400. Yeah, this is the 400 is the brown cover. I think the 300 has the yellow cover, and it's still, yeah, very good. It just depends what I need it for. Sometimes they have all of the selections, sometimes they don't. So the black marker is the Mono Twin. And it is a permanent, and again, 2 tips. You've got the bullet tip on one end and the extra fine tip on the other. And it is a permanent ink. Yes, you can also buy, yes, the set online at Michael's, correct. The eraser is, it's called the Mono Plastic Eraser. And it's just a really nice all around good eraser. And they give you a nice big one. And it will erase, like I said, the 4H lead is a very hard lead, and it will leave a very light line. So you can just go back. Really, most of the time, I don't mind some pencil lines under my watercolor. The blending ratio on the blending chart. So when I'm doing the blending chart, I've got my 5 numbers down the side, and then I've also got them across the top. So for instance, this 885 and 993, it's over here on the 993 side. So I put about 3/4 993 and like 1/4 885. But over here on the top, I put more of the 885. I put 3/4 of the 885 and like 1/4 of the 993. So it just depends. On this side, I put more of that color. On that edge, I put more of that color. Does that answer that question? Yeah, I don't mind coloring outside the lines. No, the baby wipes don't leave a residue on the plastic. Sometimes the colors, like for instance, this, I've left this sitting on here for a while. So I might need to take that over to the sink and actually rinse it in the sink. This is, you know, like plastic. So it won't hurt it. It won't leave a residue. Oh, if you have questions about the blending ratio, please go to my website, creativelybeth.com, because I do go, I've got, I think 3 different posts at this point in time that go very deeply into the explanation about the blending chart. Archival ink, I just use Ranger archival ink because it's readily available at Michael's. Yeah. You could use carbon paper. I use a light box. It's called the Cricut Bright Pad. It's supposed to be used for weeding. You could actually just tape something to a sunny bright window as well to trace. Yay, thank you. Great, very good. Yay, I'm so happy that everybody had a good time tonight. Yes, you could laminate a random piece of paper and use it as a blending palette. And you could also use like a plastic bag, a Ziploc bag, but any plastic surface or actually any glass surface. Sometimes people have glass palettes, so you could definitely use a glass palette as well. Great, thank you. I had fun too. Oh yes, very good point. You can use the plastic case. So once you take the tools out of here, you can definitely use the plastic case as a palette as well. Good tip. Great. You just clean the water brush. You just, on the paper towel, you just push water through the brush tip on the paper towel. And as soon as you've got clear water running out of the brush tip, then your brush is clean. Even though, like I said, this one's it's a little bit stained just because some of the darker pigments. Okay. There was a recommend. Thank you. Thank you, Justina.
Hey, Beth, thanks for teaching this class. It looks like everyone had a really good time and learned a lot of helpful information.
Good.
And just as a reminder, everyone, I'll put the link right here, but this class will become available in the next 24 to 48 hours on the Michael's YouTube page. And we'll also be sharing it about it on our Instagram page at Tombow USA. So definitely follow us on Instagram. You can find us. This is our handle. And then you should also follow Beth. Let me see if I spelled creatively Beth, right?
Yep. Creatively Beth.
Yes. So everyone go ahead and do that. And that way you'll be in the know of everything Beth is creating, because Beth is constantly creating really cute stuff and always has a lot of printables around the holidays. Like with St. Patrick's Day coming up, she had some cute ones for Valentine's Day. She always has cute ones for Halloween, Christmas, Thanksgiving. So if you really like doodling and stuff like that. Beth, is there anything else you want to let everyone know before we sign off?
I can't think of anything except I really appreciate y'all joining me on a Friday night. I've had a lot of fun. I love to teach. It's one of the favorite things that I do in my artistic career. So I appreciate each and every one of you coming and playing with me tonight. And I hope that you'll get your hands inky and dirty really soon.
Bye, everyone.
Okay. Good night.